A rich teen poured wine on a waitress, laughing like it was nothing. What he didn't know, 100 bikers outside had been watching through the glass. And the girl he humiliated was the daughter of their fallen brother. The golden hour painted Malibu's coastline in shades of amber and rose, but Mia Chen wasn't watching the sunset. She was counting seconds. Table 6 needs their appetizers. Table 9 wants more bread. Table 12, the difficult one, is ready to order. Her feet ached in the cheap shoes she'd glued back together that morning. Rent was due in 3 days, and her father's hospital bills still haunted her mailbox like ghosts she couldn't shake. The oceanside terrace wasn't just a job, it was her lifeline, stretched so thin it might snap at any moment. Smile more, Mia, her manager had told her during the pre-shift meeting. Tonight's charity dinner is important. High-profile guests. Make them feel special. She'd nodded, knowing special meant invisible until needed. The restaurant's main dining room overlooked the Pacific through floor-to-ceiling windows. Outside, on the wraparound patio, another crowd had gathered, an unusual sight that made the other servers whisper nervously. About 100 motorcycles lined the parking lot, chrome glinting like a warning. Their riders sat at the outdoor tables, leather vests dark against the dying light. Mia had served them earlier. They were surprisingly polite. Quiet. The kind of quiet that felt like held breath. Inside, the charity crowd sparkled with diamonds and designer suits. A fundraiser for underprivileged youth. The irony wasn't lost on Mia as she balanced a tray of wine glasses, each probably worth more than her weekly paycheck. She approached table 12. Brandon Hale sat sprawled in his chair like he owned the ocean itself. Maybe he did, his family seemed to own everything else. 19 years old with a face that had never known consequence, he was showing his friends something on his phone, laughing too loud. "Excuse me," Mia said softly, preparing to set down their drinks. "Your wine selection." Brandon's chair shot backward without warning. The world tilted. Mia's hip struck the chair's edge, her carefully balanced tray lurching sideways. She tried to recover, her body twisting instinctively, but physics won. 6 crystal glasses tumbled through the air in horrible slow motion, exploding against the marble floor like bombs. Red wine spread across the white tiles like blood. The dining room went silent. Mia's face burned. "I'm so sorry, I'll clean this up immediately." "Wow," Brandon said, his voice dripping with theatrical amusement. "Just. Wow. Did everyone see that?" He looked around the room, grinning. His friends snickered on cue. Mia crouched down, her hands shaking as she began gathering glass shards. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll get you new drinks right away." "Wait," Brandon's voice stopped her. She looked up. He was standing now, holding his untouched wine glass, swirling it thoughtfully. The smile on his face made her stomach drop. "You missed a spot," he said. Then he poured the entire glass onto her apron. The wine splashed cold against her uniform, soaking through to her skin. Gasps rippled through the dining room. Someone's fork clattered against a plate. But Brandon just laughed, a sound so carelessly cruel it seemed to echo off the windows. "There," he said, setting the empty glass down. "Now you actually have something to clean." Mia couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The humiliation was a physical weight crushing her chest. Around her, the other diners looked away, suddenly fascinated by their meals. No one said anything. No one ever did. But through the glass wall, outside on the patio, something shifted. 100 bikers had gone absolutely still. One of them, a man with silver threading through his beard and eyes like storm clouds, set his beer down with deliberate care. He tilted his head, studying Mia's face with an intensity that made the air feel electric. "Jax," the biker beside him muttered. "That girl. I see her." "You think it's..." That's Hawk's daughter. Jax's voice was granite. That's his kid. The name rippled through the outdoor tables like wine through tall grass. Leather creaked as men shifted in their seats. Hands that had been relaxed on beer bottles now curled into fists. A younger biker, his jaw tight with fury, started to stand. "We gonna let that rich punk sit?" Jax didn't raise his voice, but the command was absolute. "Not here. Not like this." Inside, Mia finally managed to move. She stood up, wine dripping from her apron, pieces of broken crystal cutting into her palms. Brandon had already turned back to his friends, the incident already forgotten by him but carved into her bones. Miss Chen, her manager, appeared at her elbow, his face tight with barely concealed anger, not at Brandon, but at her. "Kitchen. Now." She walked through the dining room with her head down, feeling 100 eyes on her back. The rich ones looked through her like she was invisible. But outside, through the windows, 100 different pairs of eyes tracked her movement with the focus of wolves watching a wounded member of their pack. Jax pulled out his phone as Mia disappeared through the kitchen doors. His fingers moved quickly across the screen, pulling up an old photo, a memorial page that still hurt to look at. There he was. Marcus "Hawk" Chen. Standing beside his motorcycle, his daughter on his shoulders, both of them grinning at the camera. Mia couldn't have been more than 8 years old in that picture. That was 12 years ago, back before the warehouse fire. Before Hale Industries' unfortunate accident that killed 6 men and destroyed twice as many families. Before the quiet settlement and the sealed records and the story that never made it past page 8 of the local paper. "Brother," Jax said quietly, his thumb tracing the hawk tattoo visible on the dead man's forearm, the same one hidden under Jax's own sleeve. "We got a problem. And this time, we're not staying quiet." Around him, the other bikers leaned in close. The sunset painted everything crimson, and somewhere in that dying light, something old and patient began to wake up. Justice had been sleeping for 12 years. It was hungry now. The parking lot lights flickered on as Mia pushed through the restaurant's back door, her shift finally over. Midnight had come and gone. Her uniform still smelled like wine, and her manager's words still rang in her ears: "Corporate will be reviewing your performance. We'll be in touch." Translation: she was probably fired. She fumbled for her car keys, then remembered, her car was in the shop. Another expense she couldn't afford. The bus stop was 3 blocks away, through an empty parking lot that suddenly felt too dark, too quiet. Then she heard them. The rumble of motorcycle engines, low and steady like distant thunder. Mia's heart jumped into her throat. She'd seen enough movies to know what happened to young women alone in parking lots at night. She started walking faster, her keys clutched between her fingers like claws. Mia Chen. She spun around. They'd formed a semicircle behind her, 20, maybe 30 bikers, their motorcycles idling softly. The rest remained in the shadows beyond, a wall of leather and chrome and absolute stillness. The man in front stepped forward into the light. Silver beard, storm cloud eyes, and a presence that commanded attention without demanding it. "Don't run," he said quietly. "We're not here to hurt you." "Then what do you want?" Her voice shook, but she stood her ground. Her father had taught her that much: never show fear, even when you're drowning in it. The man, Jax, she'd heard someone call him earlier, reached for his sleeve. Mia tensed, but he was only rolling up his leather jacket, pushing the fabric up past his elbow. There, inked into weathered skin, was a hawk in mid-flight. Mia's breath caught. She knew that design. Had seen it 1,000 times on her father's forearm, traced it with small fingers while he told her stories about freedom and loyalty and the family you choose. "Your old man rode with us," Jack said. "Marcus Chen. We called him Hawk." The world tilted sideways. "That's... How do you know my father?" Another biker stepped forward, younger, with kind eyes that didn't match his intimidating size. He rolled up his sleeve too. Same tattoo. Then another. And another. 10 men, all bearing the mark of the hawk. We were brothers, Jax continued. Before the fire. Before Hale Industries decided safety regulations were too expensive and 6 good men burned alive in their warehouse. Mia's legs felt weak. My father. He died in an accident. A faulty electrical system. The company paid for his funeral. The company paid for your silence. Jax's voice was gentle but firm. They gave your mother $50,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. They buried the OSHA reports and the witness statements. They made it disappear because admitting fault would have cost them millions. No, but even as Mia said it, memories were surfacing. Her mother, crying over papers at the kitchen table. The lawyer who kept calling until suddenly he didn't. The way people stopped talking about her father's death, like it had been erased from history. A third biker, older with burned scars crawling up his neck, spoke for the first time. Your dad pulled me out of that fire before the ceiling came down. Went back in for the others. If Hale Industries had installed the fire suppression system they'd been cited for twice, his voice cracked. Hawk would have walked out of there. Tears burned Mia's eyes. Why are you telling me this now? Because we saw what that punk kid did to you tonight, Jax said. And we recognized you, same eyes as your dad, same way you hold your ground even when you're scared. That was Brandon Hale. Son of Greg Hale, the CEO who killed your father and 5 of our brothers. The parking lot seemed to spin. You're saying the family that humiliated you tonight is the same family that took your father and then paid to cover it up? Jax's jaw tightened. We've been watching the Hales for 12 years. Building evidence. Waiting. We promised ourselves we wouldn't let them hurt anyone else. Mia's mind raced. The new management at the restaurant. The corporate memos about efficiency improvements and staff cuts. Hale Holdings bought the restaurant, she whispered. 2 months ago. 70% ownership, confirmed a biker with a tablet, definitely not the stereotype she'd expected. They're buying up businesses all along the coast. Same playbook as always, acquire, cut corners, maximize profit. We're not asking you to do anything, Jax said carefully. But if you want to know the truth about what happened to your father, we have files. Documents. Witness statements that never made it to court. And if you want to make sure the Hales can't do this to anyone else, he paused. We could use someone on the inside. Mia looked at the faces surrounding her. These weren't the dangerous criminals she'd been taught to fear. They were tired men carrying old grief and older loyalty. They were her father's brothers, still keeping promises to a dead man. What would I have to do? Just tell us what you see. Corporate memos, renovation plans, anything that shows their pattern of negligence. We'll handle the rest. Legally, Jax added firmly. We're done letting them hide behind lawyers and money. Mia thought about Brandon's laugh. Her manager's anger at her instead of him. The way the system always seemed to protect people like the Hales while people like her father burned. My father, she said slowly, did he know? About the fire hazards? He reported them, the scarred biker said. 3 times. They fired him for it. He was working his last shift when he didn't need to finish. Mia wiped her eyes and straightened her spine. What do you need? Jax smiled, not with triumph, but with something deeper. Pride, maybe. Recognition. That's Hawk's daughter, he said to the others. Then to Mia, welcome to the family, kid. Now let's make sure your old man didn't die for nothing. Greg Hale didn't sleep well, but that had nothing to do with conscience. At 6 a.m., he was already in his home office, a wall of windows overlooking the Pacific, when his phone buzzed with the call he'd been dreading. "Sir, we have a situation." Marcus Webb, his head of security, never called this early unless blood was in the water. "The restaurant incident last night," Webb continued. "Your son. There's footage." Greg's jaw clenched. "Handle it." "Already did. I've pulled the security files from the restaurant's system and our backups. The incident never happened, as far as digital records are concerned." "And witnesses?" 87 dinner guests, none of whom will want to testify against a major donor. The waitress, a pause. "We're working on that." Greg ended the call and opened his laptop. His PR team had already prepared a draft statement. Hale Holdings is committed to excellence in hospitality. We are reviewing staffing procedures to ensure all employees meet our high standards of service. Translation: the girl would take the fall. It was elegant, really. Blame the victim, control the narrative, move on. He'd done it 100 times before. What he didn't know was that 20 miles away, in a cluttered garage that smelled like motor oil and coffee, a different kind of war room was forming. Mia stared at the paper in her hand, reading it for the third time. The restaurant's letterhead looked official, the words coldly professional. "Due to conduct unbecoming of Oceanside Terrace standards, your employment is suspended pending investigation. You are not to return to the premises until further notice." Conduct unbecoming? She laughed, but it came out choked. "I got assaulted and I'm suspended?" She was sitting in the garage Jax's crew used as their unofficial headquarters. Motorcycles in various states of repair lined the walls. The biker called Techie, real name David, former Navy IT specialist, was hunched over 3 monitors, his fingers flying across keyboards. "They filed the paperwork at 6:47 a.m., he said without looking up. 43 minutes after their head of security downloaded and deleted the restaurant's security footage." "They deleted it?" Mia felt sick. "From the restaurant's system, yeah. But," Techie grinned, "restaurant security backs up to a cloud server every night at 2 a.m. Corporate IT doesn't have those credentials because the restaurant's previous owner kept that system separate." His fingers danced. "And the previous owner's son happens to owe me a favor from when I fixed his encryption problem." "You have the footage," Jax said. It wasn't a question. Crystal clear. "Including the audio of that little punk saying, 'You missed a spot.'" Techie pulled up the video. "Also got something better." He opened another window. Corporate emails filled the screen. "After I got into the restaurant's backup system, I noticed it shares server space with other Hale Holdings properties. Took me about an hour to find the good stuff." He scrolled through folders. Employment records showing systematic wage theft. OSHA violation reports that were never filed. And look at this. An email chain appeared, dated 3 weeks ago. "The Oceanside location continues to overstaff. Recommend reduction of workforce by 30% and increase in table assignments per server. Profit margins need improvement before Q4 reporting. They're planning mass layoffs," Mia whispered. "People with families, mortgages." "Same thing they did in Santa Barbara," said the scarred biker, whose name was Tommy. "Bought the marina, fired half the staff, cut safety inspections. 6 months later, a dock collapsed. Kid lost his leg." Jax was silent, studying a wall covered in papers and photographs. 12 years of collected evidence, all pointing to the same pattern: acquire, exploit, extract, abandon. In the center was a photo of 6 men in front of a warehouse. Her father stood in the middle, his arm around Jax's shoulders, both of them young and laughing. "We've been gathering this evidence for years," Jax said quietly. "But we could never make it stick. The Hale's own lawyers, judges, politicians. Everything gets buried." "So what's different now?" Mia asked. Techie spun in his chair. "Now we have the internet. Court documents are one thing, boring, technical, easy to ignore. But a viral video of a rich kid pouring wine on a working-class girl? He smiled. That's a story people will share. You want to leak it, Mia realized. With your permission, Jack said. This footage belongs to you, legally. But once it's out there, your life changes. Media attention, online harassment, the Hales coming after you with everything they've got. Mia thought about her father going back into that burning warehouse. About choosing to save his brothers even when he knew the ceiling was coming down. About making the hard choice because it was the right one. Do it, she said. Techie's grin widened. I was hoping you'd say that. His fingers flew across the keyboard. I've already drafted the post. Multiple platforms, timed release, with enough technical fingerprints to make it look like it came from an anonymous employee. And I'm including some choice documents about Hale Holdings' business practices. Context matters. How long? Jax asked. 2 hours. Long enough for me to set up burner accounts and proxy servers. Techie cracked his knuckles. By lunch, Brandon Hale is going to be the most hated teenager in America. Mia felt a strange calm settle over her. This wasn't just about revenge for one humiliating night. This was about her father. About Tommy's scars. About every person the Hales had crushed on their way to the top. My dad used to say something, she said softly. The truth doesn't always win, but it's still worth fighting for. Jax clasped her shoulder. Hawk would be proud, kid. Outside, the sun climbed higher. In his oceanfront office, Greg Hale was already planning his next acquisition, confident that another problem had been solved. He had no idea the bomb was already ticking. And in 2 hours, the world would hear it explode. The video went live at exactly 11:47 a.m. Techie uploaded it simultaneously to 6 platforms with the caption, Rich teen humiliates waitress whose father died in his family's factory. This is Brandon Hale, son of Hale Holdings CEO. His family paid to cover up the warehouse fire that killed 6 workers, including this girl's dad. Sound on. For the first 17 minutes, nothing happened. Then someone shared it. Then someone else. Then it caught fire. By 12:30 p.m., the video had 50,000 views. By 1 p.m., it hit 500,000. By 2 p.m., it was trending nationwide with the hashtag #HaleAccountability. Mia watched from Techie's garage, her phone buzzing non-stop with texts from co-workers, friends she hadn't spoken to in years, even her estranged aunt in Portland. The video was everywhere: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. News outlets were picking it up. Commentary channels were analyzing it frame by frame. Listen to this, Techie said, scrolling through comments. My cousin worked for Hale Industries. They fired her when she got pregnant. They bought my dad's construction company and immediately cut health insurance. My brother lost 3 fingers in one of their warehouses because they removed safety guards to speed up production. The stories kept coming. Dozens, then hundreds. People who'd been silenced by settlements, scared by legal threats, or simply ignored now had a rallying point. The video of Brandon wasn't just about one moment of cruelty, it was a symbol of everything the Hales represented. It's working, Jack said quietly. He was reading a news article on his tablet. Local station just ran a segment. They dug up the warehouse fire records, the unsealed portions, anyway. Mia's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Is this Mia Chen? A woman's voice, professional and urgent. This is Rebecca Torres from Channel 7 News. We'd like to interview you about. Mia hung up. The phone immediately rang again. Different number. You should turn that off, Jax advised. They're going to be relentless. But Mia was staring at her screen, at a text that had just come through from a number she recognized, her former manager. You're fired. Effective immediately. Legal will be contacting you about violation of privacy policies and theft of company property. Do not contact anyone from the restaurant or Hale Holdings. They fired me, she said, her voice hollow. And they're threatening to sue. For what? Tommy demanded. You didn't steal anything. Doesn't matter, Techie said grimly. It's intimidation. Standard corporate playbook, bury you in legal fees until you can't afford to fight back. Jax's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression hardened. It's Mickey. He's at the prep school, he answered on speaker. Talk to me. Boss, you gotta see this, Mickey's voice crackled with excitement. There's about 200 people outside Brandon's school. Parents, students, press. The kid tried to come to class and they mobbed him. School just announced he's suspended pending an investigation. A cheer went up in the garage. Several bikers who'd been working on motorcycles drifted over, listening intently. It gets better, Mickey continued. Some senior posted screenshots of Brandon's private Instagram. Tons of photos of him and his friends doing this kind of stuff, throwing food at service workers, mocking homeless people, bragging about getting out of traffic tickets because my dad owns this town, the whole school's turning on him. Mia should have felt satisfaction. Instead, she felt exhausted. Is this what justice looks like? Just destroying someone online? Jax met her eyes. This isn't the justice, kid. This is just people finally paying attention. Real justice comes next. Techie swiveled his chair. Speaking of which, check this out, he pulled up a news site. 3 former Hale Industries employees just filed a class action lawsuit. They're using the attention from the video to reopen cases that were settled with NDAs. The lawyer quoted here says the viral video constitutes new evidence of a pattern of behavior that negates previous settlement agreements. Can they do that? Mia asked. They're about to find out. But with this much public pressure, Techie grinned. Even expensive lawyers have a hard time burying things when everyone's watching. More news alerts flooded in. A labor advocacy group announced an investigation into Hale Holdings' employment practices. The Department of Labor confirmed they were reviewing complaints. A state senator called for hearings. The momentum was staggering. But Mia couldn't shake the feeling that they'd poked a sleeping giant. Jax, what happens when they push back? People like the Hales don't just roll over. You're right, Jax said. They're going to come at us hard. But that's why we move fast, stay clean, and keep the evidence flowing. Techie, what else you got? Enough to keep the story alive for weeks. I'm releasing documents in batches, employment records tomorrow, safety violations the day after, financial irregularities after that. Keep the pressure constant. Tommy leaned against a workbench. What about the girl? She's gonna be the target once Hale figures out how to spin this. I'm staying with my friend Rachel, Mia said. She has a trailer up the coast. Nobody knows about it. We'll post guys nearby, Jax decided. Rotating shifts. You don't go anywhere alone. Mia wanted to argue, she'd taken care of herself for years, but something in Jax's expression stopped her. This was how he protected family. And somehow, in the span of 24 hours, she'd become family. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was an email, and the sender made her blood run cold, Greg Hale's personal attorney. She opened it with shaking hands. Ms. Chen, we need to talk. What happened to you was unfortunate, but continuing this public campaign will have serious legal and personal consequences. My client is prepared to offer a generous settlement in exchange for your cooperation in correcting this narrative. Please contact me within 24 hours, or we will be forced to pursue more aggressive remedies. Mia looked up at Jax. They're offering money to shut up. His smile was cold as winter. Let them. Every threat, every bribe, every dirty trick, it all just proves we're right. Outside, the afternoon sun beat down on California, and somewhere in a fortified office, Greg Hale was learning that some fires can't be contained. This one was spreading fast. Greg Hale's office felt like a war room. 3 lawyers, his head of security, and his VP of public relations surrounded his desk, all talking at once. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, protesters had gathered, not many yet, maybe 50, but the news vans made it look like an army. "Shut up," Greg's voice cut through the chaos. Everyone fell silent. "Marcus, what do we know?" Marcus Webb pulled up a tablet. The video was uploaded using military-grade encryption through multiple proxy servers. "We've traced it back to a VPN in Romania, but that's a dead end. Whoever did this knows what they're doing." "The bikers," Greg said flatly. "Most likely. We've identified the motorcycle club that was at the restaurant, Veterans Freedom Riders. Former military, mostly. Clean records, no gang affiliations. They've been careful. Not careful enough. What do we have on them?" Webb hesitated. "Not much that would hold up legally. But I've made contact with LAPD's gang task force. If we can get their bikes classified as a public nuisance, we can start towing, issuing citations, making their lives difficult. Do it. I want them scattered and defensive, not organized and attacking." Greg turned to his PR director. "What's our narrative?" The woman, sharp-eyed and sharper dressed, didn't flinch. "We go sympathetic. Brandon makes a public apology, genuine tears, coached but believable. We announce a scholarship fund in Marcus Chen's name. You personally meet with worker advocacy groups, promise reforms, the whole redemption arc. And the girl? She's the problem. As long as she's sympathetic, we're losing. We need to shift perception, hint at ulterior motives, suggest she's being manipulated, maybe leak something about her background. Parking tickets, failed relationships, anything that makes her less perfect." Mia would have been horrified to know how quickly they found her college transcripts, her mother's bankruptcy filing, even a misdemeanor charge from when she was 17, shoplifting a bottle of medicine for her sick father. "Use it," Greg said. "Carefully. I want her credibility destroyed by the weekend." At O'Malley's diner, the bikers' usual hangout, Jax's phone buzzed with the first warning. "They're hitting us," Mickey said, bursting through the door. "Cops just towed 12 bikes from the lot. Said we were blocking fire lanes, total BS, we park there every week." Before Jax could respond, Tommy's phone rang. Then Techie's. Then 3 others simultaneously. "My shop just got a surprise health inspection," Tommy said, his face darkening. "They're claiming violations I fixed 6 months ago. Building inspector showed up at my place," another biker reported. "Says my garage isn't up to code." Techie looked up from his laptop, his expression grim. "It's coordinated. Multiple city departments, all receiving anonymous complaints at the same time. Someone made calls." "Hale," Jack said quietly. The diner went silent. "He's using the system against us. Cops, inspectors, bureaucrats, people who owe him favors or want to stay on his good side." A younger biker, hot-headed and furious, slammed his fist on the table. "So we hit back. We know where he lives, where he—" "No," Jax's voice was absolute. "That's exactly what he wants. He'll paint us as thugs, criminals, dangerous bikers threatening a respectable businessman. We lose everything we've built. So we just take it. We stay clean. Document everything. Film every interaction with police. Keep receipts. He wants us to react with violence because violence is easy to prosecute. Patience is harder to fight." But Jax could see the frustration in his brother's eyes. They were warriors being asked to stand still while someone threw punches. Mia sat in the corner booth, her laptop open to news articles about herself. They'd started appearing an hour ago, subtle hit pieces questioning her motives. Sources close to the situation suggest Chen may have orchestrated the incident for social media attention. Chen's employment history shows multiple short-term positions, raising questions about her professional conduct. The young woman's family received a substantial settlement from Hale Industries in 2013, making recent claims of victimization complicated. "They're making me look like a con artist," she said quietly. Jack sat down across from her. "That's the playbook. They can't defend Brandon's actions, so they attack your character instead. Is it working?" Techie joined them, scrolling through his phone. Comment sections are split. Some people are buying it, yeah. But a lot more are calling it out as corporate PR. He showed her a trending tweet. "Imagine being so rich you can hire people to destroy a waitress's reputation because your son is a bully. #Hale accountability." "It's not enough," Mia said. "They have infinite resources. We have." "What? Viral videos and old documents?" "We have something they don't," Jack said. He pulled out a worn leather notebook from his jacket. "Your father kept this. Every safety violation he reported. Every time management ignored him. Dates, names, photographs. He documented everything." Mia's breath caught. The notebook was water-stained and singed at the edges. It had survived the fire that killed her father. "Why didn't you use this before?" "Hawk made us promise, don't use it unless we could protect his family. After the settlement, your mom wanted peace, not more fighting. We respected that." Jax's voice softened. "But you're not asking for peace, are you?" Mia opened the notebook. Her father's handwriting filled the pages, careful, methodical, damning. Reports of broken fire alarms. Photos of blocked emergency exits. Emails from management explicitly ordering him to ignore safety protocols to meet production deadlines. The last entry was dated 3 days before his death. Reported smoke detector failures in Sector 7 again. Manager says budget doesn't allow for repairs this quarter. If something happens, I want record that I tried to stop it. For Mia, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. Don't let them forget us. Love, Dad. Tears blurred her vision. He knew. He knew, and he tried to save them anyway. Jax closed the notebook carefully. This is the smoking gun, Mia. Proof they knew about the dangers and chose profit over lives. But if we release it, Hale will come at you with everything. No more subtle PR campaigns, full legal warfare. Outside, a tow truck rumbled past, pulling another motorcycle. Mia watched it go, then looked down at her father's final words. He'd faced his fear and walked into that burning warehouse anyway. How could she do less? Release it, she said. All of it. Let them come. Jack studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Techie, you heard the lady. Already scanning pages, Techie said, his fingers flying. This is going to break everything wide open. Tommy leaned in. The charity gala. Hale's hosting it in 3 days at the same restaurant. Trying to rehab his image. A slow smile crossed Jax's face. Is that so? Security will be tight, Marcus warned. He'll have private contractors, vetted press only. We don't need to get inside, Jax said. We just need to be there when the truth comes out. Mia felt something shift in the room, a plan forming, unspoken but understood. Her father had died trying to warn people about dangers they refused to see. Now, finally, they would have no choice but to look. The oceanside terrace had never looked more beautiful or more false. White roses lined every table, champagne flowed like water, and camera flashes sparkled across the dining room like manufactured stars. Greg Hale had spared no expense on his redemption tour. Ladies and gentlemen, the master of ceremonies announced, Please welcome our host for this evening's Children's Future Foundation Gala, Mr. Greg Hale. Applause rippled through the crowd as Greg took the stage, Brandon standing stiffly beside him. The teenager looked miserable in his tailored suit, his eyes downcast. Good, Mia thought from her position near the kitchen doors. Let him be uncomfortable. She wore a borrowed catering uniform, her hair tucked under a cap. The agency sending staff tonight didn't do thorough background checks. Techie had made sure of that by temporarily losing their verification system. She was just another anonymous server in a sea of black and white uniforms. Thank you all for coming, Greg began, his voice warm and practiced. Recent events have reminded us, that we must do better. We must hold ourselves and our children to higher standards. Brandon stepped forward on cue, his hands trembling slightly. Someone had definitely coached him. I want to apologize, he said, his voice cracking. What I did was wrong. I was cruel and thoughtless, and I'm deeply sorry. I'm taking time away from school to reflect and do community service. I hope someday I can make this right. The tears looked real. Maybe they were. Mia almost felt sorry for him, almost. He was still a kid being used as a prop in his father's damage control. In honor of those who work tirelessly in service industries, Greg continued, and in memory of Marcus Chen and others who lost their lives in tragic workplace accidents, Hale Holdings is establishing $1 million scholarship fund for the children of hospitality workers. More applause. Cameras clicked frantically. This was the moment, Greg Hale as the magnanimous philanthropist, learning from mistakes, becoming better. Mia caught Jax's eye through the window. He stood outside with 50 other bikers, kept at a distance by security but visible to everyone inside. He gave her the smallest nod. It was time. Techie sat in a van 2 blocks away, his fingers poised over a keyboard. On your signal, he whispered into his comm. Greg raised his champagne glass. To second chances, to growth, and to... The massive screen behind him flickered. Greg's smile faltered. He glanced back as his own face disappeared, replaced by security footage, the wine incident, crystal clear, with audio amplified. Brandon's voice echoed through the dining room, you missed a spot. Then the poor, deliberate and cruel, while Mia stood frozen in humiliation. The crowd gasped. Greg's face went white, then red. Cut the feed. Cut it now. But the technicians were already trying. This wasn't their system anymore, Techie had hijacked it completely. The video changed. Now it showed documents, pages flipping across the screen fast enough to read but too fast to stop. Her father's notebook, every damning page. Safety violations. Ignored warnings. An email chain with Greg Hale's name prominently featured. Chen continues to file unnecessary safety complaints. Terminate him. We can't afford production delays for every minor issue. The response, from a manager, sir, some of these issues could be serious. The fire suppression system. Greg's reply, I said handle it. If he won't stop whining, make him someone else's problem. 3 days later, Marcus Chen died in the fire. The dining room erupted. Guests were on their phones, recording everything. Journalists pushed forward, shouting questions. Security guards rushed toward the control booth, but it was too late, the damage was done and spreading online in real time. This is fabricated. Greg shouted into the microphone. Doctored evidence from a smear campaign. It's not fabricated. Every head turned. Mia had stepped out of the shadows, pulling off her cap. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. That's my father's handwriting. Those are his photographs. He documented everything because he knew someone would try to erase him. She walked toward the stage, security unsure whether to stop her with so many cameras watching. You paid my mother to stay quiet. You buried the OSHA reports. You got 6 men killed and then hired PR firms to make it disappear. Brandon stared at her, recognition and horror dawning on his face. You're the waitress. I'm Marcus Chen's daughter. And I'm done being silent. The screen changed again, now showing a compilation. The Santa Barbara dock collapse. 3 workers injured in a Miami construction site. A restaurant fire in Portland caused by faulty wiring. Every incident linked back to Hale Holdings, every case settled quietly, every story buried. Until now. Greg grabbed his son's arm. We're leaving. Don't say anything. Mr. Hale. A woman in a police uniform pushed through the crowd, 2 officers behind her. I'm Detective Sarah Morrison. We need you to come with us. We have questions regarding. I'm not going anywhere without my lawyer. That's your right, sir. But we have warrants, multiple agencies, multiple jurisdictions. The Department of Labor, OSHA, the DA's office. This isn't going away. Outside, the bikers revved their engines in unison, a sound like thunder, like justice finally arriving. Greg's carefully constructed facade crumbled. He looked at Mia with pure hatred. You have no idea what you've done. I will bury you. I will. You'll what? Mia's voice didn't waver. Humiliate me? Threaten me? Kill me like you killed my father? Everyone's watching now, Mr. Hale. The whole world is watching. The screen behind them now showed a live feed. The protest outside had swelled to hundreds. The bikers formed the front line, a wall of leather and determination, while behind them stood families, workers, activists, all holding signs. Remember the Warehouse 6, justice for Marcus Chen, Hale accountability now. Brandon suddenly pulled away from his father. His voice was barely a whisper, but in the shocked silence, everyone heard, Dad. Did you really? Did people die because? Brandon, shut up. Answer him, Detective Morrison said coldly. Did you knowingly ignore safety violations that resulted in deaths? Greg Hale opened his mouth, closed it, then did what men like him always do when cornered, he called his lawyer. But it was too late. The gala was over. The redemption tour had crashed and burned. And somewhere in the chaos, as police began escorting Greg Hale toward the exit, as cameras captured every moment, as the truth finally broke free after 12 years in chains. Mia felt her father's presence, as real as the wind off the ocean, as solid as the brothers who'd kept his memory alive. I see you now, Dad, she thought. Everyone does. The cameras never stopped rolling. Greg Hale descended the restaurant's front steps with Detective Morrison at his elbow, his lawyer on the phone screaming about civil rights violations and unlawful detainment. But the warrants were real, signed by 3 different judges, backed by federal agencies who'd suddenly found their courage now that the spotlight was burning bright. Mr. Hale, did you know about the safety violations? Were the deaths preventable? What do you say to the families? The reporters swarmed like sharks scenting blood. Greg kept his head down, jaw clenched, saying nothing. His lawyer had taught him well, silence couldn't be used against you in court. But silence was damning in the court of public opinion. Brandon stood frozen on the steps, watching his father get escorted toward an unmarked police car. His mother had divorced them 2 years ago, smart woman, Mia thought, and was probably in the Hamptons right now, changing her maiden name back. The bikers held their line, engines idling, a wall of witnesses making sure everything stayed visible. No one could claim this happened in shadows. Brandon, Mia's voice cut through the chaos. He turned, and she saw something unexpected in his face, not defiance, not entitlement, but the raw shock of a worldview shattering. He'd spent 19 years believing he was the hero of his own story. Now he was discovering he'd been cast as the villain all along. I'm sorry, he said, and this time there were no cameras coaching him, no PR team crafting his words. I'm so sorry. I didn't know, I never knew what he. You knew enough, Mia said, but her voice wasn't cruel. You knew you could pour wine on someone and laugh. You knew your name protected you. You just didn't know where that protection came from. Brandon's face crumpled. People died. Because of my family. Because of money and, he couldn't finish. Yeah, Mia said quietly. They did. My father tried to save them. He died trying. What do I do? The question came out desperate, lost. How do I fix this? Mia wanted to hate him. Part of her did. But she'd learned something from Jax and the bikers. Sometimes the path to justice isn't about destroying everyone connected to the crime. Sometimes it's about breaking the cycle. You stop being your father, she said. You testify. You tell the truth about everything you know. And then you spend the rest of your life making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Before Brandon could respond, a black SUV screeched up to the police car holding Greg Hale. A woman in an expensive suit emerged, his lead attorney, probably charging $1,000 an hour. Don't say a word, she shouted at Greg. I'll have you out in 2 hours. Ma'am, your client is facing charges from multiple agencies, Detective Morrison said calmly. OSHA violations, criminal negligence, conspiracy to obstruct justice, witness tampering. Bail will be set, but this isn't going away. We'll see about that. But even the lawyer looked uncertain. This wasn't a quiet settlement anymore. The world was watching, and the world wanted answers. Jax dismounted his bike and walked toward Mia, the crowd parting for him. Up close, she could see the emotion in his weathered face, not triumph exactly, but something deeper. Resolution. The kind that comes after carrying weight for so long you forget what lightness feels like. Your old man would be proud, he said simply. Would he? Mia's voice cracked. I just destroyed a family. No. They destroyed themselves. You just made sure everyone could see it. Jax glanced at Brandon, who stood alone on the steps, security unsure what to do with him. Even the kid, maybe. Sometimes the truth is the only thing that can save you. Tommy approached, holding his phone. Boss, it's everywhere. International news. The FBI just announced they're opening an investigation into Hale Holdings' business practices going back 20 years. Labor department's taking calls from whistleblowers, Techie added, appearing from the van. 43 former employees called in the last hour. People aren't scared anymore. The police car pulled away with Greg Hale inside, and Mia watched it go. She thought she'd feel victorious. Instead, she felt exhausted, hollowed out, like she'd been carrying her father's ghost and finally set it down. Brandon descended the steps slowly. Security had abandoned him. Without his father's money and power, he was just a scared teenager. He stopped a few feet from Mia and the bikers. I'm going to testify, he said, his voice stronger than before. Against my father. I've heard things over the years. Conversations. Seen documents. I can help. Jack studied him with hard eyes. Why should we believe you? Because I can't undo what I did. To her, Brandon looked at Mia. To all of you. But maybe I can make sure he doesn't hurt anyone else. Maybe he swallowed hard. Maybe that's the only thing I can do. The bikers were silent, waiting for Jax's judgment. But Jax looked at Mia. Your call, kid. He wronged you first. Mia thought about cycles of revenge and cycles of justice and how hard it was to tell them apart sometimes. She thought about her father, who died saving people who'd probably never learned his name. Okay, she said finally. But you don't get to be the hero of this story, Brandon. You're just another witness telling the truth. That's all. He nodded, relief and shame mixing on his face. That's more than I deserve. Detective Morrison approached them. "Ms. Chen, we'll need your statement. And your father's notebook, that's evidence now." Mia handed it over carefully, like passing along something sacred. "Take care of it. It's all I have left of him." "We will." "And Ms. Chen?" The detective's expression softened. "Your father's case is being reopened. Officially. We're going to make sure everyone knows what really happened." Around them, the protest had transformed into something else, a vigil, almost. People held candles now, some crying, some embracing. Workers who'd been silenced for years finally had a voice. One of the bikers started a chant, "Remember their names." And the crowd answered, Marcus Chen, David Torres, Robert Kim, James O'Connor, Samuel Wright, Anthony DeLuca. The Warehouse Six. Finally named. Finally remembered. Mia's tears came then, hot and unstoppable. Jax put a heavy hand on her shoulder, and Tommy moved to her other side, and suddenly she was surrounded by her father's brothers, held up by them when her legs wanted to give out. "He's not forgotten anymore," Jax said quietly. "None of them are." The sun had set hours ago, but the restaurant lights blazed, cameras still recording, the world still watching. Justice wasn't pretty. It was messy and complicated and incomplete. But it was finally happening. 10 days changed everything. Hale Holdings filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on a gray Wednesday morning. The stock price had collapsed, investors fled, and 3 board members resigned in a coordinated exodus. Greg Hale sat in a federal detention center awaiting trial on 14 counts ranging from criminal negligence to obstruction of justice. His lawyers were good, but even they couldn't outrun a paper trail that long. Brandon Hale had given his deposition on camera, his testimony damning and detailed. He'd waived his right to privacy, insisting the public deserved to see it. "My father built an empire on people's pain," he'd said, his voice steady despite the tears. "I benefited from that pain. The least I can do is tell the truth." The Department of Labor had contacted 247 former Hale Holdings employees. Settlements were being negotiated, real ones this time, with oversight and accountability. It wouldn't bring back the dead, but it might help their families finally breathe. Mia stood outside what used to be the Oceanside Terrace, watching workers remove the old sign. The restaurant had been seized as part of the bankruptcy proceedings, then purchased at auction by an LLC that nobody seemed to know much about. Except Mia knew. She'd been there when Jax and 43 other bikers pooled their money, savings accounts, retirement funds, even a few pawned motorcycles. They'd outbid 2 corporate chains and a real estate developer who wanted to turn it into condos. "You sure about the name?" Jax asked, walking up beside her. Mia looked at the new sign being lifted into place, Hawks Harbor in elegant letters, with a silhouette of a hawk in flight. "I'm sure," she said. "He would have loved this." The concept was simple but revolutionary for a place like Malibu: fair wages, full benefits, profit sharing with employees. Priority hiring for veterans, single parents, anyone who'd been knocked down and needed a hand up. The menu would feature comfort food at reasonable prices. No champagne towers, no platinum credit cards required. Just good food, honest work, and respect. "The contractor says we can open in 6 weeks, Tommy said, joining them. His burned scars caught the morning light. "Got 12 applications already, and we haven't even advertised." "Make it 15, said a voice behind them. They turned. Brandon Hale stood there, looking smaller somehow without his designer clothes and his father's shadow. He wore jeans and a plain t-shirt, his hands shoved in his pockets. "I need a job," he said simply. "Dishwasher, busboy, whatever. I'm not going back to school, not yet. I need to understand what it means to actually work." Mia exchanged glances with Jax. "Your trust fund. Frozen pending the lawsuit. Even if it wasn't, I don't want it, Brandon's voice was firm. Blood money, all of it. I'm 19 years old and I've never earned an honest dollar in my life. That needs to change. Dishwashing's hard work, Tommy said, his tone skeptical but not unkind. Good. I need hard. Brandon looked at Mia. I know I can't fix what I did. Can't bring back your father or any of them. But maybe I can be part of something that honors them instead of, he trailed off, unable to finish. Mia studied him for a long moment. He'd testified against his father. Rejected his inheritance. Faced death threats online with quiet dignity. None of it erased the wine or the cruelty or the years of careless privilege. But redemption had to start somewhere. Minimum wage, she said. You work the same hours as everyone else. No special treatment, no second chances if you screw up. Yes, ma'am. And Brandon? She waited until he met her eyes. The first time you treat anyone here the way you treated me, you're gone. Understood? Understood. Jax clapped him on the shoulder, not gently. Welcome to the real world, kid. It's gonna hurt. 6 weeks became 8, but finally, on a perfect Saturday morning, Hawks Harbor opened its doors. The line stretched around the block. Veterans in worn jackets, families with children, service workers from other restaurants, reporters, curiosity seekers, and in the back, trying to be inconspicuous, the entire Veterans Freedom Riders Club. Mia stood behind the host stand in a clean apron, her father's old leather jacket, the one Jax had kept for 12 years, hanging in her office. She'd cried when he gave it to her, the leather still smelling faintly of motor oil and Old Spice. Ready? Asked Rachel, her friend who'd hidden her during the worst of it and now served as assistant manager. Ready. They opened the doors. The first customer was an elderly woman who'd worked as a housekeeper for 40 years. I heard you treat people right here, she said shyly. We do our best, Mia replied. Table for 1? Table for 6. My daughters are coming. We're celebrating, I finally got my settlement from Hale Holdings. After all these years. Mia seated them by the window overlooking the ocean, where the light was best. The day blurred into a beautiful chaos of orders and conversations and the satisfying exhaustion of honest work. Brandon worked the dish pit without complaint, his hands red and pruned. The kitchen staff, all people who'd been passed over or pushed out by corporate chains, worked with the precision of a crew that knew their worth. At sunset, during a brief lull, Jax appeared at Mia's elbow and pressed something into her hand. She looked down at a leather cuff bracelet with a small hawk emblem. From all of us, he said. You're Dad's brothers. You're one of us now. Mia fastened it around her wrist, the leather warm and solid. Through the windows, she could see the bikers outside, their motorcycles lined up like steel sentries. Beyond them, the Pacific stretched endless and free. A new customer approached, a young waitress from another restaurant, her uniform still on from her lunch shift. Is it true, she asked hesitantly, that you really treat employees like people here? Mia smiled, and it felt like the first real smile in years. Come Monday and find out. We're hiring. The sun dipped lower, painting everything gold. The harbor sign caught the light, the hawk's wings spread wide. Inside, the restaurant hummed with life and laughter and the sound of second chances being served daily. Mia touched the leather cuff, feeling her father's presence in the leather, in the ocean breeze, in every person who walked through those doors knowing they'd be seen, valued, respected. We did it, Dad, she whispered. You're not forgotten. None of them are. The sunset blazed its final glory, and somewhere in that light, 6 men who died in darkness finally found peace. And in a small seaside restaurant where justice was served alongside every meal, a new story was just beginning, one written not in wine and humiliation, but in hope and healing and the fierce, unbreakable bonds of chosen family. The sign gleamed in the fading light. Hawks Harbor, respect served here. And for the first time in 12 years, everything felt right. The end.